Judaism has 26 different laws that regarding food and food preparation, as well as additional laws that must be observed on Sabbath and holidays, making it one of the strictest religions regarding food and food preparation. Ashkenazi food is a unique cuisine influenced by other by religion and other cultures. I personally find Ashkenazi food to be very unique and complex in both influences and products. And I hope by giving this speech to you tonight that you too will be able to appreciate how beautiful it really is. So prior to this speech, I've had previous knowledge of Jewish theology, as well as I've gone to many religious services and have done extensive research in Ashkenazi cuisine. During the speech, I will discuss other cultures, specifically Central to Eastern European countries and their cultures, kosher laws, and Sabbath law, and how they've influenced Ashkenazi food culture, demonstrating the complexity of the cuisine. First, we will discuss the influence of Mid to Eastern cultures on Ashkenazi food. According to the National Cancer Institution, a government organization that traces back Jewish history, Ashkenazi refers to one or two major ancestral groups of Jewish people whose ancestors lived in France and Central and Eastern Europe, including Germany, Poland, and Russia. A lot of influence from culture, a lot of influence on Ashkenazi cuisine comes from this region of Eastern Europe and Middle Europe. But in specific, I want to talk about German and Slavic culture and their impact, because they arguably have the greatest impact on Ashkenazi food cuisine. Some ingredients that German and Slavic culture have are beet, rye, buckwheat, potato, and horseradish. And these are direct influences on Ashkenazi food culture because people in this region, including Ashkenazi food, Ashkenazi Jews have to usually use these kinds of food, and they are influenced by having similar types of food. Ingredients. Dishes like kugel, gefilte fish, and chopped liver are direct influences by cooking in this region. Ashkenazi food also uses a lot of pickling, which is evident in dishes like borscht and creme, which reflects the methods of preserving food in the German and Slavic region. Breads such as challah and bagels from this region also come through as Ashkenazi and are directly influenced by the cooking there. Mid to Eastern European food culture has had, especially German and Slavic cuisine, has had a profound impact in what ingredients it uses, styles and cooking, and their preservation methods. Next, we will discuss the influence of kosher laws on Ashkenazi food cuisine. Without a doubt, kosher laws, kashrut in Hebrew, are one of the largest influences on Ashkenazi food. Kosher laws define different requirements for preparation, what you can and cannot eat, and much more. According to YHU, who is an expert on meat and on food and food preservation, and has written many books on this, the kosher dietary laws predominantly deal with three issues: allowed animals, prohibition of blood, and prohibition of milk and meat being mixed together. These three issues are some of the most influential to Ashkenazi cuisine, and make it stand out from other cultures that are in mid to Eastern Europe. The first and most well-known issue dealing with kosher laws is the prohibition of certain meats, such as pork and shellfish. Many different cultures in mid to Eastern Europe use a lot of pork, and the Germans are very notorious for their use of pork in their dishes, and also lard, which is basically pork fat that has been. Anyway, this is used in things like sausages and schnitzels, and in being influenced and in borrowing from German culture, Jews will tend to use rendered poultry fat like that of a goose or chicken, and also replace the pork with either meat or veal. The second issue has to deal with the consumption of blood, which this prohibition of meat and meat of blood and meat with blood in it affects, according to Genesis 9, chapter 9, verse 4 in the Torah, flesh with its soul, its blood, requires meat to be koshered, and which is a process that involves rinsing and salting to remove the blood from the meat so that it becomes kosher. Though this issue does not directly influence the food itself, it has a very large influence on the culture, since it very well affects the lifestyle of Ashkenazi Jews, because it's a very necessary and long task that becomes a part of Jewish life, and affects culture regarding food. The last issue deals with the prohibition of mixing of milk and meat. According to Exodus 20, chapter 23, verse 19, in the Torah, it says, "You shall not boil a kid in the milk of their mother," which rabbis actually interpret as not being able to eat them together, or boil them together, or use anything that has been where the meat and milk have been mixed. This affects Ashkenazi food culture, because they will tend to use rendered fat from geese or chickens instead of butter if a dish already has meat in it, because it's not good for a Jew to eat butter, a dairy product, and meat together, as I've already said. And this also affects their culture, because they will tend to eat more vegetarian meals. And since if you want to eat milk-based milk products in Ashkenazi food culture, you're gonna have to go without meat, thus making more vegetarian meals that are consumed. The kosher laws provide a strict set of rules of when and what you can eat, the the preparation of such foods and much more. And lastly, we will go over the indirect influence of religious laws, the Sabbath. According to Jews, Sabbath is a day of rest that they have each week, and it goes from sundown on Friday to sundown on Saturday. And Jews are not allowed to cook on these or make a fire, and since they are prohibited on Sabbath because that would be considered work, and you're not allowed to work on Sabbath, of course. So what Jews, Ashkenazi Jews have, they found an ingenious way to be able to have hot, fresh meals during Sabbath. So what they do is that they slow cook them in a pot right before Sabbath starts, so that when they and make them on smoldering coals, so that they're not actually cooking. They're not messing with the cooking process, because that would be considered work. But since they're not messing with it, they're not working, and they're not actually cooking. It's cooking itself. And one noteworthy food that they make is called Holland, which is a stew that has meat and other things, and I think I've heard it's delicious. And thus Shabbat law influences the lifestyle, sort of like kosher laws do, and as well as the food, as we see at the way they make food on the Sabbath. Finally, as you can tell, Jewish religion and European culture both combine to make a unique cuisine that we refer to as Ashkenazi food. So tonight I've gone over the religion and the influences of religion and cultures such as Mid to East European food, kosher laws, and Shabbat on this. So in researching and presenting this speech to y'all, I found Ashkenazi food to be very beautiful and unique, and I hope that by giving this speech to y'all, that you will be able to appreciate its beauty and intricacy as well. And now, not only do you know how they are able to follow all 26 laws regarding food, but you also know how they're able to transform their culture's food into something truly unique and new.
Good job.